The pairing of Alexa Bliss and the Fiend Bray Wyatt has been one of the most bizarre angles in WWE history. It started with some small teases on SmackDown but ultimately led to a full-blown alliance between the two on Monday Night Raw. However, the dynamics changed drastically at WrestleMania 37 when Bliss seemingly turned on The Fiend. The Fiend took on Randy Orton in the opening match of Night 2 of WrestleMania 37. Just when the demonic entity was about to deliver Sister Abigail to Orton, Alexa Bliss caused an eerie distraction and cost him the match. On this week's Raw, both the superstars delivered a vague explanation for what went down at WrestleMania 37. It's highly unlikely that Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt will suddenly go their separate ways. While WWE can book a cinematic intergender match, another option is for Bliss to join hands with another superstar or possibly manage him in a feud against Wyatt. Here are 5 such WWE superstars who could play this part. Comment down and let us know your thoughts on the same. Number 5. Alexa Bliss brings back Aleister Black to Raw. Ever since the debut of the Fiend character in 2019, WWE Universe has wanted to see a feud between him and Aleister Black. The former NXT champion was in a hot streak until WrestleMania 36, but things went downhill for him after that. Black has not been seen on WWE TV for the last several months. Alexa Bliss bringing him back for a feud against The Fiend, Bray Wyatt would be a great idea. We have seen Little Miss Bliss indulge in all sort of dark magic and Aleister Black's gimmick also has satanic roots. It is almost a match made in heaven, or hell, for that matter. What are your thoughts on Aleister Black versus The Fiend Bray Wyatt? Number 4. Bray Wyatt's brother Bo Dallas could join hands with Alexa Bliss. When Alexa Bliss joined hands with Bray Wyatt, The Fiend last year, there was a lot of speculations on them reforming a new Wyatt family. One of the top contenders to join them in the new faction was WWE Superstar and Bray Wyatt's real-life brother Bo Dallas. It has been months since Dallas was last seen on WWE TV. Surprisingly, he has not also been released and is currently just not involved in any angles. Or so do we think. When The Fiend returned at WWE Fastlane 2021, with a burnt-melted look during Alexa Bliss's match, there were a lot of speculations about Bo Dallas being the one behind the mask and costume. There is no confirmation on whether that was indeed Dallas. A very interesting idea could be to introduce Bo Dallas as the new follower of Alexa Bliss, who could use him against Bray Wyatt. Dallas could also be repackaged with a new gimmick, possibly a slightly different version of The Fiend. This opens up a lot of possibilities for future storylines and possibly to dive deep into the roots of The Fiend. Number 3. Abyss makes his WWE debut as the new partner of Alexa Bliss. The storyline between Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, has been highly surprising so far. Can WWE take it a notch further by introducing a massive successful character into the mix? We are talking about TNA's monster, Abyss. Abyss was portrayed by Impact Wrestling Hall of Famer Christopher Joseph Park, who signed with WWE as a producer in 2019. Abyss was an extremely popular gimmick and fans expected Park to bring the character to WWE as well. He has made a few on-screen appearances on WWE TV, but the WWE Universe has not seen him unleash the monster. Abyss could make his WWE debut and team up with Alexa Bliss to take on The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. It would truly be a dream feud, and if there are concerns over his wrestling condition, WWE could always book Abyss and The Fiend in a cinematic match. The two characters are indeed very similar, as Abyss also has an alter ego like Bray Wyatt. Number 2. Jeff Hardy joins Alexa Bliss against Bray Wyatt. Alexa Bliss could also join hands with a former rival of Bray Wyatt, Jeff Hardy. During his time in TNA, Impact Wrestling, Hardy introduced a new persona of himself, Willow. The character was highly famous and fans have been wanting to see Willow in WWE ever since Jeff Hardy's return in 2017. During an interview with BT Sport last year, Hardy himself teased a potential feud between his alter ego Willow and The Fiend. I think my go-to now would be Bray Wyatt, The Fiend Bray Wyatt. Because years ago I would be Jeff Hardy and I would be this guy named Willow, and Willow is my go-to wrestling persona. That's another dream of mine that I would like to do before I'm done, is to bring Willow into the WWE Universe and see what happens. I have a strange feeling that something crazy cool could happen between Willow and The Fiend. Willow and Alexa Bliss could prove to be a highly destructive alliance with the potential to defeat Bray Wyatt. Number 1. Finn Balor returns for revenge and joins hands with Alexa Bliss. Long before The Fiend started a storyline with Alexa Bliss, he made his first in-ring appearance by attacking Finn Balor on an episode of Monday Night Raw before WWE SummerSlam 2019. A match was then announced between the two and fans expected Balor to bring out his alter ego the Demon King. That didn't happen and Finn Balor faced The Fiend as himself at WWE SummerSlam 2019 and suffered a one-sided loss. In a way, it was a good decision to not have The Fiend face the Demon King then, as both the characters needed to be protected. However, WWE surely needs to revisit the rivalry with Balor bringing out his alter ego this time. Finn Balor recently lost his NXT championship at NXT TakeOver. Stand and deliver, and he could be on his way to the main roster soon. It would be really interesting if he returns to Monday Night Raw as an ally of Bliss. There is a clear motive for him to help Alexa Bliss and take revenge for himself as well. Sound off in the comments below. Former UFC heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier is an avid wrestling fan since childhood. We have often seen DC talk about WWE Superstars, and this time, he spoke about one of the most bone-chilling characters of all time, The Fiend. On the recent edition of ESPN MMA's DC and Helwani, Ariel Helwani asked Daniel Cormier his thoughts on the opening match on Night 2 between The Fiend and Randy Orton. DC instantly expressed his dissent, saying The Fiend shouldn't lose random matches. I think that the WWE makes a mistake at times with The Fiend character, as they did with Demon Finn Balor. When those guys wrestle as that character, they should win just about every time, said Cormier. He further added that Bray Wyatt as himself or as the Firefly Funhouse version can lose, but not The Fiend. Although, he clarified he likes the Firefly Funhouse version too. In fact, DC believes it is one of the greatest characters ever created in wrestling. When he wrestles as The Fiend, you should almost feel as if it's just an afterthought that he's going to win. He shouldn't lose to a Randy Orton. He shouldn't be losing in the opener of WrestleMania as The Fiend. It just digs at the character and by how important that character is. Cormier added The Fiend can lose against someone as big as Roman Reigns in a world title match, but not otherwise. We completely agree with Daniel Cormier here. The Fiend is a precious character, and WWE must go to any heights they can to portray him as a big deal. Yes, the current Alexa Bliss The Fiend storyline definitely has our attention. But on an overall scale, The Fiend needs firm support to make it big in the WWE to become an eerie entity unlike any other. One of the major reasons The Undertaker became successful is WWE trusted him. They backed him up and maintained the sanctity of his character. All they have to do is show the same faith in Bray Wyatt, and who knows? Maybe, the fate of WWE would change forever. For the good, of course.
Oh, let me up with a bright smile on now. Put me in the dark, so won't get lost now. To the moonlight, eyes you.